Ealing Council has voted unanimously to implement a safe zone around Mary Stopes abortion clinic after women complained of being intimidated by protesters. The Good Counsel Network, which holds daily vigils outside the centre, denies harassing women, but this means that both anti-abortion and pro-choice campaigners are not allowed to stand within 100 metres of the clinic. Now, there was applause in the Ealing Council Cabinet Room when this decision was made, and it is expected that this will actually be followed by many other councils around the country where there have been demonstrations or protests being held outside abortion clinics. Let's talk about this now with two people on different sides of the debate. Dr. Anthony McCarthy is a director of the Society for the Protection of Unborn Children, and Rebecca Reid is a journalist for the Telegraph and the Metro and has written extensively on this. Thank you so much for joining us, both of you. Dr. Anthony McCarthy, if I could start with you. It seems very reasonable, does it not, that women who are going through a very difficult decision, going through a very difficult time in their lives with an unwanted pregnancy, should not actually have to face people demonstrating, protesting, handing out leaflets to them as they go into a clinic to have a entirely legal medical procedure. So this 100-metre safe zone, as it's being, buffer zone, as it's being called by the council, seems perfectly reasonable to me. Why do you object to it?
Well, what's being offered is help, actually, to these women, and hundreds of women have gone on to have their children, and a number of whom have formed a group called Be There For Me. I'm very much supporting this offer of help, which is the kind of help that's not given by the abortion industry, by a clinic in Ealing that's been condemned, by the Care Quality Commission. And it's an attack on free speech, really, to say that you can't offer a leaflet offering help peacefully, deny any. I would say that there's no evidence of serious harassment here at all. To deny people information and genuine choice, actual help to go forward with a birth, is very serious.
Well, you say it's denying people information and free choice, but by the time someone goes to an abortion clinic, they've probably got enough information. They can Google the information. You talked about the abortion industry, and I know there have been some concerns about the number of abortion clinics and the advice that they offer. But you're saying these leaflets are offering women help. Well, I've demonstrations by, and I don't know if it was the Good Counsel Network, but I said if it wasn't the Good Counsel Network, it was a very similar group at a clinic just around the corner from my office, and on a regular basis they would be outside with leaflets, and I stopped to talk to them a number of occasions, and the leaflets they were handing out were okay. To be fair, I mean they are honest, but they are fairly brutal pictures of aborted fetuses, stuff that people may not want to see. You may argue that people need to see the reality of the choices they're making, but it didn't strike me that they were offering these women help and support. They were offering something very different.
The group you're referring to is not anything to do with the Ealing Clinic, and Good Counsel Network certainly does not deal in those kinds of graphic images. What they offer and you can go on their website and see, is genuine help, housing, often for illegal migrant women, people who can't access any kind of government help. These are people that don't get help elsewhere. Many of these women, we know, have been coerced. This is not something that BPAS and Mary Stopes seem to be very concerned about. And BPAS itself has said that 1 in 5 women does change their mind. So we do know a lot of women are very conflicted.
Well, hold on. If these women are able,
a lot of women regret it as well.
If a lot of women regret it, a lot of women getting pregnant, but also again, the women do change their minds and do go through. Then they're able to do it without the help, perhaps of leaflets being handed outside the clinic they've attended. Let me bring in Rebecca Reid there. Rebecca, you've written about this for the newspapers you work for, and you've seen firsthand what goes on. Tell us what you've seen and why you think this buffer zone is a good idea.
I mean, it's astonishing to hear somebody who will literally never be affected by this lecturing women about whether or not what they're going to experience. I've taken 2 women to abortion clinics, 2 friends, and I've sat in on the whole process. Both times I've seen them being shouted at. I've seen people standing outside clinics holding pictures of 18-month-old babies as if that has any pertinence to what a 5-week-old fetus looks like. I've had people shouted at. I've had people called terrible names. The people standing outside those clinics should be running childcare centres for people who can't afford to have children. That would be a useful use of their time. Standing outside calling people names is not useful. Once you get inside the clinic, you are given every opportunity to change your mind. You were asked multiple times if you're sure. There is a great deal of information. They are hugely honest about what's going to happen. they are on your side. The people standing outside are not on your side. They have only one agenda, and they don't care about children. They only care about fetuses.
I mean, and this is the thing, isn't it, Dr. Anthony McCarthy? Because I can understand concern about abortion, and I completely understand the philosophical or moral basis for arguing that life begins at the moment of conception. It's not one that I agree with, but I absolutely understand it as a perfectly reasonable moral and philosophical point of view. And I don't think anyone should be, in a sense, pro-abortion. I think abortion is always a bad thing. It's just sometimes the least worst thing, and that's why I believe that it should be available on demand up to a certain number of weeks. However, the reality is, if you really wanted to cut the number of abortions, your time would be better spent, would it not, standing outside nightclubs offering free condoms to people to prevent unwanted pregnancies? And yet you don't do that.
Well, I mean, that's a separate issue.
No, it's not a separate issue. If you want to prevent abortion, you want to prevent unwanted pregnancies.
Well, all you have to do is look at contraceptive consumption and the rise in abortions where that has arisen. It's not so straightforward as you suggest.
Well, you're saying the more people use contraception, the more abortions there are.
I'm saying that where you have countries where there's heavy use of contraception, you have had very heavy abortion rates, and there's no evidence to suggest that it had the opposite effect.
Well, I have to say, I've never had an abortion, and I'm proud to say it's because I used contraception an awful lot of the time, so I didn't have an unwanted pregnancy. It worked for me very well.
Well, just look at the increased use of contraception and look at the abortion rate. It's not that difficult.
The increased use of contraception has come with more sex outside of marriage, more scenarios where it's more appropriate, and it's been legally available. And women, the freedom to have an abortion came at the same time as increased use of contraception and availability of it. There's a correlation, not necessarily a causation.
And we've seen now 200,000 abortions a year, skyrocketing from the 60s. But just very quickly, if I can say, Rebecca Reed is saying there are things, the Care Quality Commission was quoting people at abortion clinics themselves, staff members, saying that women were treated like cattle. We have women regularly contacting us about the behaviour of these clinics. These clinics are not interested in women. You say we're only interested in unborn children.
Well, Rebecca said that,
children.
Yes.
There are women who have had children who are being supported right now, hundreds of them, who are ignored by the media and by the
but Anthony McCarthy, that's an argument for you to take action against these clinics and to call and make formal complaints to, I don't know, whoever you do, Medical Council, whoever you do, about these clinics, to perhaps maybe to protest outside, to protest about Parliament. But Anthony McCarthy, none of the things that you have said justifies handing out leaflets to women who are about to go through a legal medical procedure.
Talk to the hundreds of women who did take a leaflet and who did get financial and other support and still get support for the children that they know and love. And they were outside.
That's not a justification.
The council last night.
That's not a justification.
The council last night. Well, the justification is you are helping
because some women took your advice doesn't mean other women have to put up with it.
Well, the woman doesn't have to take the leaflet.
But the woman has to listen to the people shouting at her.
Nobody is harassing her. There is no video evidence that was brought to Ealing, although cameras are trained there all the time, that actually showed that this was the case.
Okay.
So, there's been no prosecutions, there's been no actual breach of the law, and there's been no video evidence.
Okay.